Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. The professional service group of Mercer County is here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition. And we also wish everybody a happy Aloha Friday, as we do every Friday. And you're all welcome to wear Hawaiian shirts. Yes, it's getting a little chilly outside, but nowadays we are not going outside as much. We are staying inside, so maybe if you're able to, you can wear your Hawaiian shirts. You're always welcome to. Welcome to our virtual meeting. We have been doing virtual meetings since March 20th, and so I'm glad that we're able to still offer services and people are still able and interested to come visit us. And so we will continue to be virtual until it's safe and sensible to be back in person, which I think would be ideal. You know, if you want to hear something really absurd, today is National Absurdity Day. Go figure. So it's a day when oddness and weirdness takes over. That's what they talk about for National Absurdity Day. So if you want to do something absurd later, please do. Hopefully the absurd thing will not be turning on the microphone in the middle of the presentation. And I think, though, other than me, there's really nothing odd or weird about PSG. I'm the only absurd person by wearing a Hawaiian shirt every day on a Friday. But something else to celebrate and have some fun with. PSG of Mercer County is here to help anybody in a career transition. It doesn't matter why you are currently in a transition, doesn't matter how long or short your career is. We are here to provide resources and information to help make your job search more efficient and more effective. Among the tools that we do have is our LinkedIn group, so please join our LinkedIn group. If you are a job seeker, you absolutely should be on LinkedIn. Groups are these logical assemblies of like-minded people. They're professional groups, there are personal groups and groups in between. So go join groups, because the people in the groups become your extension, your extended network. So even if you only have a few or a few hundred connections, by connecting to people in a group, they become almost the same as your first degree connections. You can contact them. You may find some good groups with hundreds of thousands of people, like the Project Managers Group and some others. So go take a look at some of those. We have our own group as well. It is called PSG of Mercer County. Our group is over 1,600 members strong right now, and these are all people that have attended one of our meetings, either in person or virtually, if it's been in the past 7 or 8 months. And so these are all like-minded people who are supportive and interested in job search. And members contribute articles and job leads and things like that, posts. It's certainly a good idea if you see an interesting job that doesn't pertain to you, but it sounds pretty good, post it in the LinkedIn group. You're helping somebody else, and you're letting LinkedIn know that you're active on LinkedIn, which is always good for your profile as well. In addition, we do have our website, psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. Go check it out. It is over 120 pages of content. So it is not just a lightweight website as a landing site for people to find us. The things that I've been talking about most likely recently, we have added new job posting page. And so in addition to having what we used to have, the job boards page that had 2,600 company career page links in Mercer and the 6 border counties, we now have a postings page available also in the same menu item. We now have, I believe it's 24 job postings that are there. So you can go take a look at that. Right at the top on the menu, you'll see the job postings. Click on that, and that'll give you access to both the career pages as well as the 24 postings that are there. It's a free service. You can sign up so you can be notified when there are postings. And we've also have a few recruiters that are now connected to it, and that's what we're really pushing, trying to get more attention to this page, set of pages for recruiters to post, because they get to post jobs, and if they place those people, there's no commission. And certainly some job boards charge big commissions, but not us. And I'm not looking to monetize us at all. I want to keep this as a free service for all job seekers. So go take a look at that. So as we about to get ready in just a moment, I want to just let you know a couple of the ground rules. So for one is I will be turning the program over to Colleen in just a moment, then she will present her slide deck. And please keep your audio and your microphone on mute. So if you're on the web, or if you're on the mobile app, or if you're on the installed app on your PC, there's a microphone or MIC, mic button. And so please make sure that is turned off. Your cameras you can leave on or you can leave off. At the top of the page, it's probably saying there's a little button or things that says view everyone. It's probably right above all the people. And so if you click that and drop down, you can actually change who you are viewing. So you can view just who's talking, which would be me right now and Colleen in a moment, or maybe just the active cameras. So you don't see the cameras that are off. You'll just see the cameras that have people on. So you can set that the way you want. So it's a good experience for you. And so I think we are all ready. And like I said, I will keep, and today's program, Colleen wants this to be as interactive as possible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use chat for Q&A, for questions all through the program. If you have a question, enter it in chat. And the reason why we use chat is because right now we're 59, almost 60 people. This program can get large. If we just leave the microphones open, it can be a little disruptive sometimes for people to ask questions. So I will moderate chat, but as I see questions during any of the slides, I'll just politely interrupt Colleen and let her know there's a question for her to answer, so we can answer your questions as close to the point that you see it in the slide. When you enter a question in chat, please put the word question in front of it, the word question, and then type your question. Because a lot of people do use chat for introducing themselves or providing their LinkedIn profile. We can get a lot of chatter in chat, and I don't want to miss your question. So if I see the word question, it will just stand out better for me. And so that's what we will do. Okay. And if you're not familiar with chat, in the upper right side of your screen, there are a couple of icons. You might see an icon of a couple of people with the number 60. Next to that is a little like cartoon call out bubble. That's the chat. You click on that, a chat window will open. And send the question. You can pick who you can send it to. Don't just send it to me. Don't just send it to Colleen. Send it to everybody. That way Colleen and I can both see it. And also it does get recorded in the chat box, which we will make available at the end of the program as well. Okay, so we are ready to move forward. And so I am just very pleased, and PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome Colleen Farrary. Colleen is an accomplished businesswoman who for 23 years climbed the corporate ladder. As a single mom, she led teams of more than 3,000 employees in 3 states. 8 years ago, she made a decision to leave corporate America and build a career helping small businesses. Small Business USA today has supported over 200 businesses and is the parent company of Employment Tutors. Originally created to support the leadership needs of clients and nonprofits, she was serving. Employment Tutors now offers an affordable alternative to expensive employment coaches. PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome certified coach Colleen Farrary.
Well, I'm so thankful to be here. So I appreciate you having me. And David, thanks for the great introduction. It's kind of a funny way how Small Business USA ended up growing Employment Tutors. And we started, we as consultants with Small Business USA had done a lot of hiring. And come the turn of 2020, we noticed that that hiring was just getting more and more challenging. For every job application, we used to get maybe in the New York City area 200 applicants. Now we were getting hundreds of applicants, and we realized that so many people were losing out on great jobs because the managers who were actually doing that interviewing didn't know how to interview, and the interviewees really didn't know how to present themselves to someone who wasn't a skilled interview. So this Employment Tutors was actually born more out of the need to offer nonprofits a tool to teach students. And then we realized that, boy, with the beginning of COVID and March, it just has taken on a life of its own. And we've been able to take everything that we've learned as hiring managers and use them to really help students, second career executives, and applicants. So it's been really an incredibly rewarding journey. So thank you for having me here. And just to go over today, like what we're going to look at, we decided we're taking an hour-and-a-half session and we're trying to squish this into 45 minutes for you. And we want to look at a couple key points: looking at your resume, getting your resume to the top of the pile, and then some interview prep and confidence, because we know that confidence piece and how you present yourself is the first thing that gets people knocked from that competition. So today, I want to thank you, and I want to, like David said, I really want this to be interactive. So David will be the keeper of the chat, but you're going to hear me a couple times. We really, if you don't know how to use the chat, we really need everyone to use the chat today, because there's going to be a lot of this process that will be interactive today. The other thing to get ready for today, if you have your resume printed out, you're going to get so much more out of today's call. And also a piece of paper, and do the exercises, piece of paper and a pen, or however you take notes. The exercises today we found are very eye-opening for most job seekers. So let's get started. You guys ready? Give me a big hell yeah in the chat box. Let's start using this chat box. Give us some yes, get going, get on the wagon here. Yes, I'm here. I want a new job. I want a new career, whatever stage you are. Let's get busy here. You out there? You guys alive, active? Come on, let's have some fun today. Awesome. So you know that the typical job process right now looks something like this. And if you just send in a resume, this is where your resume lands. You're going to land right here with everyone else, and it is at the bottom of that stack, right? So what you present, we need to get you closer in that arc to the right-hand side. So that's what today is all about, is moving that needle. So a lot of this, we may be talking about something that, I shouldn't be looking at this chat, actually. Sorry. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. What I want you to pay attention to is where your current strategy is stalling. So if your resume is great, you're really good at that pregame, the networking introductions, you're getting your resume seen, well, you don't need that help. If your resume is not getting seen, you're not getting those calls, like, only work on the pieces. Don't go revamp your whole strategy. I want you to pay attention to the specifics of where your personal strategy is stalling. So in that chat box, tell me, where are you stalling? During the pregame, paper, at hello, where are you guys all stalling in your career search today? Paper. Anybody else? Come on, we gotta share here. Gotta get engaged. This is gonna help me know where we wanna spend a little more time and a little less time. So getting the interviews, pregame, formal, great. At some point in each block, thanks, paper, resumes, okay. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna look at your resume. We're gonna start at the resume and look at that with a new perspective first. Not because your resume is the most important part of this process, but because you really shouldn't be doing the other stuff until you have a resume that you can pull the trigger on and send to people. So we're going to take a look at your resume first. So, we do a lot of hiring. So we get a lot of statistics from Small Business USA with employment tutors. So just throw out a guess here. How many resumes, an unpaid internship, and it really wasn't a week that we had it posted for. We had this we posted it on Thursday and took it down Sunday night. How many resumes do you think we got for an unpaid internship? And this was just last month. No one's close yet. Oh, Joe, you're a little over, but 1,200 in a total of 4 days. And that's not just for an internship. That's not just students. That we posted a position for an attorney a few weeks ago. We got over 800 applications. So the game is changing a little bit too, because now most companies are saying, hey, this remote thing is working out, right? So we don't have to just pick our pool from Chatham, New Jersey, where I live. We can take somebody from California. We can take people who are all over. And so the pool is getting bigger and bigger all the time. So I want to really talk about marketing first, because this shampoo aisle is a metaphor for me. And yes, I spent a lot of years in retail climbing that corporate ladder. So shampoo is very personal, but I want you to just think about your resume as one of the bottles on this shelf. And it sounds ridiculous, right? But think about how you make that decision, because the most important thing I can do right now is get you into the hiring manager's mindset. Too often when we go after this process, we look at, hey, I want to tell you what I'm so proud of and what I bring to the table. You need to stop first and look at, what is the hiring manager, what is the company looking at? So Mike, I see your question, can you prepare a resume without knowing what you want to do? You really need to have a goal. Like, I think in today's date, you really need to, I would start looking at jobs that inspire you and build that resume towards something that inspires you and connect. And I think as we go through this, you'll see the answer to that a little closer. But think about the shampoo aisle. If you go and you buy your shampoo, you've done a million times, right? I'm going to go buy Head and Shoulders. Well, when I show up, there's 350 different kinds of shampoo in the aisle. If they don't have Head and Shoulders, what is the first thing that you think of? Well, I have a problem. I have dandruff, I have dry hair, I have frizzy, whatever it is. You have a problem that needs to be solved. You don't only need to clean your hair. You also need to solve a problem very specific to you. And every company is thinking the same thing. They don't only need an accountant. They need an accountant who is solving a problem and filling a gap for them. So very much like your decision, it applies to this job piece, right? So the first thing you do is you think about friends or ads, what you've heard about things, right? So maybe you've heard about another dandruff shampoo you want to try, but if not, you have to read all of these bottles. If you don't have a referral, your shampoo isn't available, you have to go and now read all of the bottles in this aisle and find one that solves your problem. That's what a hiring manager is doing. So the first step they're going to do is, who do we know that can fill this position? The second one is, well, I don't want to go and look at those 350 bottles of shampoo or resumes or the 1,200 resumes. So the people that are going to jump to the top of that pile are the ones with the referral, someone you know, someone trusted, like attracts like. If somebody is a hard worker and they refer someone, you're going to assume that they're a hard worker too. So that's why referrals jump to the top of the pile. And then the last one is your resume. So unfortunately, that's an educated guess on what you read. So I know that you guys all know this, that the average hiring manager, and my husband has challenged me this on so many occasions, like I'm looking through these 800 applicants for an attorney, we spend 6 seconds. My husband's challenged me, we've timed it, we make a decision within 6 seconds of looking at your resume. It's not right. We want people to dig in more, but it's reality. And unfortunately, I'm going to tell you from my clients specifically, our clients specifically in hiring are all over the United States. We've done the UK, but mostly it's been in LA and New York City. There's 20 years ago when I hired somebody, I'd look for somebody who was different, and I'd use I'd say, oh, maybe we could make this person work. that conversation doesn't exist anymore. They're like, they get to be as picky as they want. This attorney was in the film industry. They had to have experience with these type of contracts. There's no waiver. Employers no longer they don't have to get somebody who's close. They can hold out for the 100 resumes that exactly fill their niche. So that's where the challenge with the resume is really answering the problem of the prospective employer or the job. So we're gonna have a little test, Terry. We're gonna look at my resume, and I'm gonna give you an example. So the first thing, I'm applying for a job as an employment coach. You guys are now the hiring manager. So I need you to get ready in this chat box, right? I'm applying for the job as an employment coach, somebody who can run this meeting. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to review the core elements of my resume. And what I want you to do is I want you honestly to rate my ability in the chat to do this job based on the information I'm giving you. All right, ready? All right, you guys, I want you to start giving me on a scale of 1 to 10. How qualified am I to run this building? And I want you to be this meeting. I want you to be painfully honest based on what you're reading here. Mike, you're very generous. 7, thank you so much. But 1, 2, 3, yeah, it's not really good, right? There's gonna be a whole lot of other people who are a 10. Now, I want you to reassess. Now, both of these are absolutely true. The first one, what was so important to me. These are the biggest accomplishments in my life. Now I want you to look at a resume that's written specifically for the employment tutor's role or for the employment coach. And I want you to honestly assess this now. So as you guys are seeing, there's a significant difference in what that is, right? There's a significant difference in how I present myself to a prospective employer. So unfortunately, now we're more in the 8 and 9 column. So unfortunately, I'm still competing against those folks with a 10, right? That have every single quality that they need, but that's where my relationships are going to come in. So the first step is when you look at your own resume, you have to ask, what is that hiring manager looking for? So how do you market yourself in your resume? So we're going to dig in a little bit here. This is where you grab your notepad. Okay, everybody ready? I want you to first think about your dream job. What do they want to see? Where is the proof in your ability to do this job? So I want you to first think about on the top of your page, I want you to put down the title of your dream job. Operations manager, accountant, whatever that job is, write down on the top of the piece of paper, your dream job. Now, I want you to go into your employer's perspective, and I want you to take a moment and write down 5 things that employer wants to see. Proof that you have the ability to do the job at the top of the page. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. And if that wasn't clear, write it in the chat box. But okay, as you guys finish up, maybe a few of you could just tell me when you're done in the chat box so we can move on to the next step. So for anybody who just knew, I noticed a couple new people joined. We're making a list of, in your dream job, or the job that you're looking for next, what are the top 5 things that a hiring manager would look for? Okay, this is where it gets tricky, you guys. Great, I see a lot of people finishing up. So here, I probably should have shared this slide a little bit earlier. Here's a great example. My dream job is a pastry chef. If there's 1,000 applicants, you want pastry experience, you want to see evidence of creativity, you want to see portfolios, you want to see review of food, you want to see a connection with a well-known pastry chef. So those 5 things. So now what you're going to do is take out your resume. And you have 10 seconds starting right now to find those things in your resume. And I want you to circle them, star them, and if you don't see those 5 things, just make a bullet point on your resume that they're not there. 10 seconds. Okay, what'd you see? Did anyone have all 5 things? Were they easy to find? So here's the challenge. Those 5 things, that's all a hiring manager is looking for. So those 5 things, if you have more time and you're doing your homework or you're working with a coach, they can go find that you can find that from a job description, but your resume is proof of your ability to solve their problem. But also think about that shampoo aisle. How hard are you going to look for the proof? That's where marketing comes in your resume. So the challenge is revisiting your resume and making sure those 5 things are the first thing that a hiring manager is going to see. 10 seconds. Now, a real test, you probably have read your resume 100 times. You probably wrote your resume. So my challenge to you is have someone else look for those 5 things. Tell someone what those 5 things are and have your husband, wife, child, whatever, go find those 5 things and watch their faces as they go to look for it and watch how long it takes them to find those things. Because that is the real, that's the real gauge if your resume is ready to be submitted to an employer. The second thing we talk a little bit about, I want to kind of, does anybody have any questions on that last episode? Okay. The next thing we talk about a lot with employment tutors is language. There's power in language. I'm sure that you've all heard of this, but I wanted to, David and I had a conversation and we were talking about what is this group in particular, what is the biggest fear that's out there? And so I thought we would address language today since we have a limited amount of time and talk about what does it mean when you're applying as a candidate who's an experienced or over 50 candidate. What's going through the minds of a prospective employer when they look at your resume? Now, I will, if anybody, I'm going to just, for the sake of time, I've listed a few things on here. So the first thing I think is, oh, this person's been doing this job. They're way qualified, but oh, they're going to be expensive. I know that they worked for Procter & Gamble, and Procter & Gamble pays $300,000 and my budget's only 75. So that's going to make me nervous. If I see someone who's climbed the corporate ladder, and I'm like, oh, are they going to be able to step down and work for this new CEO or this new leader? So there's some things that whether we want to share them or not that are in there, right? The cost of insurance, technology, there's a lot of these things are BS, right? Just because does someone over 50, I'm over 50, do I lack energy? No. I do have a lot of war stories that I tell, and I like to tell stories. That could be a problem. So we need to, when you're looking at your resume and you're in that space and you believe that this is something that's holding you back from your resume being seen, I'm going to really challenge you to look at the language that you have there. So I'll tell you quick story. I had this great guy, talking about war stories, right? I have this great guy that worked for me for years. And I mean, we just couldn't promote him. He was quite honestly he was the nicest but most boring person on the planet. He was just the greatest guy. But when he spoke, when he led his team, they would go to war for him. But the challenge is I couldn't promote him based on what I knew. He still had to go through the interview process to get promoted. And he just was boring. He had these old war stories and he'd tell them and it was that. So I was working with him and we're trying to figure out how do we get him to the next level? How do we get him through the interview process to get him promoted? So one of the things that I challenged him with was to record himself as he's talking. And he was so funny, and to listen to the recording on the way home. And I got this call at 7 o'clock at night. He goes, Colleen, I'm going to kill you. I almost killed myself driving home because I bored myself to death. But understanding where your gap is really important first, but then figuring out how do you overcome those concerns in your language, not only during the interview process, but in your resume so you can be seen. So by changing, the simplest thing that he did that made the biggest impression was he changed the adjectives he used. So he was never going to be that person that spoke like he was on stage, or that could speak to 1,000 people and get them to rally. He was always that guy who was going to lead by putting his arm around someone, not in this day and age, but putting his arm around someone and saying, hey, I really care about you and I'm here for you and you're going to be successful. As we present ourselves, we have to understand that there are some concerns that I'm not going to tell you that there's not bias. There's total bias. When you look at somebody from right out of campus, you know that you can pay them $45,000 or $50,000 a year and they're going to be really happy. So I think the challenge is making sure that when you present yourself in your resume that you're going through these and saying, hey, are there things that are saying I'm stuck in my ways on my resume? Is there language on there today that is going to reinforce someone's first impression? Am I answering the salary question? That's the biggest one. When somebody asks for a salary, answer that question and be really honest. And you can always negotiate that, but if you're over 50, people are going to assume that you want more money. So just kind of in this space, make sure the language on your resume, you're looking for this information because you want to overcome that hiring manager's concerns.
Excuse me, Colleen, we
Yes.
do have a question from Sherry.
Sure.
Those 5 items from your earlier slide, those five items are in my cover letter, but less apparent in my resume. Can you talk a bit about which is looked at first, by why and by whom?
Yeah, I will tell you that based on your cover letter, some industries, like an accounting industry, hardly looks at your cover letter. They look at your resume first. So depending on what your career is, that cover letter holds a little more weight than others. So I had a food media company we were hiring for. The cover letter was everything. They refused to talk to anyone who didn't have a passion for food. And if they didn't write their passion for food in their cover letter, they didn't get through. So it really depends on the industry. So I would make sure that those 5 things are in both places. So your resume, I believe, based on, I think what I've seen 90% of the time is your resume is what gets it done. The cover letter is what gets you off the fence and shoves you onto one side or another. We do a whole presentation around cover letters, and it's especially with senior, like myself, somebody who has been around and we have a lot of experience out there. It doesn't probably fit perfectly into what they're looking for. That's where we work really carefully with that cover letter to make sure that we're really calling out things clearly and simply to help, like to be that shampoo bottle, to say, hey, here's 3 bullet points that you need to see that you'll find in my resume, but it's not going to be as clear. I hope I answered that question.
And there's a follow-up from Mike. How about
Sure.
highlighting your 5 points in the resume?
Mike, give me I might need a, let me try. I think I understand your question, but you know, those 5 items absolutely have to be highlighted in your resume, but it's not like you can just bold them all. You need to figure out though how to, they should be easily read at the beginning of bullet points. They should, you know, a hiring manager, when they scan through in that 6 sections, in the 6 seconds, they're going to look at your key categories first. And so we very often, especially in the finance industry, we see this. We find someone has a job title that doesn't come anywhere close to matching what they're applying for. The industry has changed a lot. In those cases, we challenge them to reposition their resume. So you can't change your job title. That just doesn't work. But you can strategically bullet underneath those so it's easier to read and they jump out a little clearer.
And Pat has a follow-up question. Can't war stories show accomplishments and creativity?
What war stories do is they show that you're living in the past and not the future, and you're not innovative. And I know that's a hard message, but when you look at companies right now, yes, war stories, experience and past behaviors will indicate future behaviors, but you have to be careful that the stories, and we'll go a little bit into this at the end on how to frame your answer so you're not getting caught behind. But just remember, a war story in particular is showing somebody who's living in the past and not for the future. So be very careful of that, because if you get stuck on that, your hiring manager is generally not somebody like me who's in their 50s, who's been around, who wants to find the best candidate. There's someone who's 25 years old, fresh out of college, and they're looking for exactly what their boss had challenged them with. And it's usually things around creativity and innovation. And so we'll show you how to use those war stories in a good interview setting a little bit later today. We good?
We're good.
All right. All right. So, you know, language is all about your vibe, and it's really interesting that it's really difficult for you to assess your own vibe. So the reason that I throw this in here is make sure you can't edit your own resume. You can't assess your own vibe. I really challenge you to have somebody else get uncomfortable, have somebody else look at this and tell you what they see. A friend, you guys, this is an amazing opportunity, this group, and hopefully you guys are sharing resume and ask that question, what's the vibe? Based on this, what kind of a leader do you think I am? Based on this, how optimistic do you think I am? What kind of an innovator? And do you guys do that, David? You guys are in a great opportunity. You're in a great group to be able to share that information.
Yeah,
and
we
help
do.
each other out with that. Great. So just to recap, kind of this resume success list, some of the things that we talked about is making sure that you can highlight those top 5 skills. Make sure that you're delivering proof and capability in your resume. That you're not, if you're not delivering that proof that you have the ability to do the job, if you're a pastry chef and you're not giving them a portfolio, they're not looking at you because everyone else is giving a portfolio, right? If you don't have a website, a lot of times they'll ask for your social media, your LinkedIn, your social media, your portfolio, your website. You see that very often. Usually they're asking for a website if this is a creative position and they want to see that you have a website highlighting. That's your proof and your ability, because they don't have time to call everyone and find out what that looks like. Manage your resume language. And lastly, never do your resume alone. It's impossible to edit yourself. All right, now we're going to talk about getting your resume to the top of the pile, which I know, David, you guys have just done an amazing job talking about connections. And so I'm going to give you 2 tools that I use and that I teach to help to connect. So we want to obviously This piece of it is going to bring your resume from this space in the hiring to here. When someone calls me and says, hey, I have someone that you need to talk to, or I have a friend that's applying for that position, I mean, I can't not talk to them. That would be so, even if their resume didn't match, I'm going to give them a call and just say, hey, you know what, David gave me your resume. I don't really see that it matches, but hey, he speaks so highly of you. I want to spend some time with you. It's a game changer because most people have hearts, right? And they want to find the right people. And also we're peers and colleagues. So we want to make sure that if David is referring you, that I'm doing right by David as well. And I'm not embarrassing him by not calling you or ignoring your resume. So these connections obviously are the most important thing you can do. Now I want you to think every single person you know elevates you, and we underestimate, most job applicants underestimate who they know, always. So, we look at this group of how many people are on, 64 people, right? And if you haven't had coffee and had one-on-one conversations with all the folks in this room, or as many as you can, then I think you've made a little bit of a mistake and lost an opportunity here. Now, not everyone is going to help you, but there's knowing people and having them know you at that level that it's personal makes a huge difference in this job market. So do you guys know the 6 degrees of separation? Like Kevin Bacon, you guys know this little game that people play? Everybody in Hollywood can be connected to Kevin Bacon within 6 degrees of separation. So I want you to use that when you think about connection. I'm going to show you a really easy way. So the 6 degrees of separation is, Ian McKellen doesn't know Kevin Bacon, but they have someone in common. Now, what I believe job seekers miss out on is it's 6 degrees of separation for a reason, right? Unfortunately, you're not always going to know someone who knows Kevin Bacon. And during this job process, you need to do the work. Like looking for a job is a full-time job, right? So you need to do the work to fill in these degrees of separation. So when you look at your dream job becomes at one end of that spectrum and you at the other one. And the spaces in between, that first connection to you should be someone who knows you and believes in you. So if David knows and believes in me, sorry to keep using you as an example, Dave. If Dave knows and believes in me, then when he gives a reference or connects me to someone in the middle of that spectrum, that's going to shine through. He's not going to just say, hey, I know somebody who wants a job. Can you just send her resume up? He's going to say something more personal, like, man, she's like a real go-getter. I think she'd be great. I think somebody you don't want to miss out on. Is there any way that you can get her resume to the right person with a reference? I just caught the chat there. Thank you very much. So I'm going to speaking of LinkedIn, thank you for the segue. Hopefully you all use LinkedIn. Some people will tell you that LinkedIn is outdated. I think it's a blessing. It shows you all of the connections in that you have between people. Most people in business use LinkedIn. They also use other things. So you can do the same thing with Facebook and Instagram. They'll tell you who your connections and who knows who the people in between you and that person are, so you can get connections. But I'm going to challenge you. If I want to get this dream job at CVS, the first thing I'm going to do is go to their company page and see who I know, right? So I happen to know Ron and Cheryl, who work at CVS. I don't really know them very well. So I'm going to go and I'm going to click on all of the employees, and it's going to list who I know in order. We dig into how to find this information a little bit closer, a little bit easier, and to have these conversations a little bit better. But just as a broad overview, when I go into CVS, I find out that Bryn B is in charge of hiring, and she's the person that's hiring for my dream job. So now my work is finding out who do I know in the middle. So it turns out when I dug a little deeper, I also know Tom and Jasmine, who happen to work at CBS and know someone who knows Bryn. So now I can start building these connections and I can do the work to get my resume to the top of the pile. And because Ron and Cheryl and Michael and Tom and Jasmine are all people in my wheelhouse, maybe they're not, like maybe I don't know them as well as I want to know. So maybe I'm going to just spend some time and take the time to go call Jasmine and have a coffee chat on Zoom and get to know her and ask her. And she may surprise me. She may know Bryn and that connection isn't there, but she can tell me something about that job, or she can get me in the right direction by building these like just by taking the time to meet with her for a coffee or sending her an email. So don't underestimate anybody's value. But if you're not using the 6 degrees of separation, I think you're really missing out on an opportunity to get your resume out of that pile, out of that shampoo aisle, and onto the top of the hiring manager's desk. So this is probably the most passionate piece that I hold for everything that we do. We use it for Small Business USA. We use it for hiring and employment tutors. So if there is one thing that you do from today's seminar, I hope that it's this. The first thing is on your piece of paper, I want you to write down 5 names. Now, not just any 5 names, but 5 people who you know, who know people, or that intimidate you a little, or that are in the space that you want to be. So people that either have the job that you want, that know people that have the job that you want, but they should be people who are influencers. So write down a list of 5 names of people that they just know the people that you want to know. And make a promise to yourself. I'm going to show you how to use this, but starting today, those 5 people, they're going to make you a little nervous. I want you to reach out to all of them in the next week, 1 a day. Starting today, every day, reach out to one of those people. And you know what? You may call those people and, you know, hey, Jim, I'd love to just get together and just have a Zoom call and have a cup of coffee. Would you mind meeting with me? There's some, I love what you're doing. I want to be in this field and I just think I can learn from you. Could you give me 15 minutes to 30 minutes? If they say no, well, they say no, pick someone else. But go meet 5 people that just intimidate you just a little. And every day for the next month, every work day, Monday through Friday, you're going to reach out to one of them. I'm going to show you how this works. Now, we spend a lot of time doing this circle of influence that we call. I threw this out here because, oh man, this is the hardest part, right? Calling people that scare you. This is the hardest part. If you're saying, oh, I can't get together, I can't network because of COVID, that's ridiculous, because everyone has changed the way that they connect because of COVID. COVID, being remote and COVID, that's an excuse. Being shy, not having the time, those are all excuses. So when you hear yourself saying, I can't make this phone call today, I can't call that person that scares me, stop yourself. And if you're saying, I can't do it because of one of these things, please know that you just gave yourself an excuse to not get that dream job. So one of the things that we teach is the circle of influence. And I'm going to just start with my business owners, because I started doing the circle of influence probably 7 years ago. It's probably a year after we started Small Business USA. And today, 80% of my clients' business comes because of the strategy. 80%. $1-million, multi-million-dollar businesses come because of the strategy. So it's a proven strategy. And when we applied this to college students a couple of years ago when we were doing some nonprofit work, it was the key influencer to them getting the job they wanted versus any job. And now today we're still seeing that this is one of those strategies that just works. And we spend a lot more time during our classes, talking about how to do this and what these connections look like. But the circle of influence is choosing 20 people who have the most influence, that make you a little nervous, that refer the most, have the ability to refer the most. 20 people, that list of 5 that we just made, just every week for the next 4 weeks, adding 5 more names to it, and being committed that every single month you're going to reach out to one of these 20 people, which is just one phone call or one connection, personal, not business. You're not going to call them up and say, hey, Colleen, I saw that you work at CBS and, can you get me a job? That's not what I'm talking about. It's talking about building relationships. Every single day, you're going to call one of these people. And every one of these 20 people know at least 20 people who can help you. So by every single day committing to reach out to one new person, you have now just increased your network to 400 people that can help you get a job. The people that do this are getting jobs because it's going to introduce you to the right people. Those 20 people, as they learn to trust you and they learn who you are and you build relationships with them, those people are the ones that are going to help you move on to that next phase of your career. And it works with people who want to be promoted and mentors. It's kind of living outside. It's kind of taking what Simon Sinek and what is his name? I just totally forgot, with the 4-hour work week, Tim. It kind of takes what they're doing to a strategy and making it not about the 5 people that you surround yourself with, which are also really important. You're the sum of those 5 people that you surround yourself with, right? But it's also about saying, hey, here's 20 people that are really, they have the ability, when I build a relationship, they have a real ability to change my life because I've selected these 20 people carefully. So, I mean, it's an amazing,
Excuse me, Colleen.
strategy.
So about that, there's a question from Patty.
Okay.
Would these people be those that you don't know but reach via LinkedIn?
It can be. There can be people that you know from past careers, that old bosses. They can be people that you found on LinkedIn that have some commonality that you've reached out to. Hey, I have this philosophy with LinkedIn. When LinkedIn can be really overwhelming, and especially in my business, like, people want to connect often. And the people who really do LinkedIn successfully are the ones that every single time somebody connects with you, go have that coffee chat, go like Zoom with them, because you never know who you're going to meet. But yeah, it can be anyone in your sphere, but you want to choose people. These 20 people should be people who, if you're looking for a job or career success, they should be people who are already in those jobs and successful. Hey, the reason, and I see Pat's question here, the word nervous, I use that a lot. They should make you intimidated. They should, I think that's an important word, because I know 10 people I can call that will sit and chat with me, but they're not going to bring me to the next level, right? That's a really important piece of growth and job searching. The people that are going to intimidate you a little, probably you perceive them as somewhat better than yourself. And by surrounding yourself with people, I don't believe that people are better. Everybody's got their own set of skills, but if they make you nervous, it probably means that they have something to teach you. And that's why I use that.
So there are actually a couple of questions, and I found one from earlier on resume that we didn't catch. It's from Mike. The ATS or some young individual reads the resume. Older people reading the resume will interpret the written language based on their experience. Your comments?
Yeah, I don't think older people have the bigger problem. Like, if I read someone's resume versus this 23-year-old recruiter reads your resume, I still only have 6 seconds in today's day and age. And I also know that I have to sell your resume upward. And not having a resume that kind of aligns and speaks to what the real decision maker is looking for is really a tough sell, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you.
Did
Frank has a question.
Okay.
Any suggestion on how to increase the level of those 5 people you spend the most time with when we are limited by COVID?
Yeah, you got to get on, you got to invite people to coffee chats. I mean, that is, I don't know a company right now that, or a community right now that doesn't do coffee chats. And that's not, like where you used to invite somebody, say, you met them at a networking meeting, go meet people at networking meetings, go online to the last person's point, go online and LinkedIn and find them there. And just ask. I do that all the time. I mean, I really believe in this. I have my 20 people that I call on a regular basis, and sometimes I realize that one of those relationships isn't really the right one, or I've outgrown them or something, and that's when I add. I kind of let one go and add somebody new to it. And when I look for that new person, it could be from a networking event, it could be from LinkedIn, but it is so commonplace to receive a message and say, hey, would love to get to know you. Would you have a time for a quick Zoom meeting and chat? It's, if you tell them why, that's the most important thing. Don't say, hey, tell them, I want to meet with you because you hold the job that I really aspire to do. And I think that I can learn a lot from you, and I'm hoping you can give me some advice. It's a great way to start a conversation. And 90% of people will say yes. And if not, go move on, right? My mom was in real estate. She owned a pretty successful real estate firm growing up. And she used to, every time someone said no to her, she celebrated. It was the funniest thing. She would teach her team. Every time somebody said no, whether they cold call or, back then it was all cold calling or knocking on doors, right? She would celebrate with them, say, yeah, you're one step closer, one no closer to a yes. And it was a celebration. And I see the weird, like, however, what holds people back is fear. I haven't even read the whole point, but like every time you do that and you get a no and you succeed and you get closer to that yes, it gets easier to do that thing that is terrifying you.
And Alex has a question. You're absolutely right about that networking, or he calls relationship development, is the most important element of job search. However, what holds people back is fear. My question to you is, how do you overcome fear, which is the strongest human motivator?
Yeah, I'm going to talk, and I know we're going so over, David, if it's okay, I'd like to talk about that fear, because there's a couple aspects to that, and I have a couple slides about that. Is it okay if I just kind of jump into that?
Yeah, if you're addressing it
a little bit.
When you address it, and don't worry about quote unquote going over. Nobody's throwing us out of the room.
Okay, all right. So interview prep, confidence is the number one thing, and I think this applies to whether you're building that network or you're going to interview, right? But a couple things that I really want to share, like the number one thing that we help our coaches help people overcome is imposter syndrome. And it's, we see it at all different levels. I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm not that white guy, whatever that imposter syndrome is, we put this into our head and we create our own problems. And this is what I do and what I coach people to do when it comes to fear and to help build your confidence. First of all, call your mother or your daughter, like whoever that person is in your family. I used to be my mom before she passed away, and be like, I have to go into this really big meeting and I'm really nervous. And I knew I could count on her to tell me how great I was, right? So that was one thing I did. But the other thing that I always did, especially if I had to have a tough conversation, was call your cheerleader. There's someone that that can be your accountability partner, who is either a best friend or a spouse, or that person, you know, when you hang up the phone with them, that just makes you feel so good, you know, that like call them before you go do something scary because they just that boost of energy. I'll tell you, I used to have a boss that every time I would go travel with him, and he was so funny. Every time he had to have a tough conversation, in the car on the way, I knew, like, I didn't need to know that his manager that we were going to visit was underperforming because he would play like heavy metal as loud as he could in the car. And I'm like, this is the most unprofessional thing ever. But it built him up and it gave him the energy to go in and have that difficult conversation. And at the time, I didn't get it. I thought he was trying to get himself angry because I don't personally like hard rock music. But that was the music that got him going. We have to have coping mechanisms to help us get to that energy level to overcome our fear. And the more we do it, the easier it's going to get. For years, I have had a drawer. This third one here, have a list handy of your accomplishments. I have a drawer of every thank you note, of every email I print out, of when I've done stuff right, right? And before I go for that tough, like, you know, if I want to go get a job or for me, it's like a gig, you know, because we're consultants. But before I go in, if I'm nervous, and I do get nervous, I was nervous before joining this call. It's just, you know, what happens, right? I pull open this drawer and I start reading these notes of how I made a difference. And I remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we have to have these things. It's scary out there. Like, I totally get that. It's terrifying. We're going into uncharted territory and it's not comfortable, but we have to, like, these are my things that help me get to where I want to go, that help me get the courage. I have accountability partners. Like, I have a best friend who every week we call each other and we're like, okay, did you make those cold calls? Did you set up these? You know, when we go back and forth, we're not looking for jobs, but we still hold each other accountable to each other's goals. So it's finding those right people to support you as you're going into something terrifying. And then this last one, this card that this guy is holding, I really want you to believe this. I do not know anyone that this doesn't apply to. When they go to interview, it is exhausting to interview. It is heartbreaking to interview candidates. It is the hardest thing that you'll do is make that decision. Every single time someone walks into a room or a Zoom meeting to interview you, they are saying to themselves, oh my God, please let this be the person. Please let this person have everything that we need. Please. They don't want to keep interviewing. The truth is, there's work that's not getting done. That's why they're hiring for this position. Everyone is overtaxed and stressed because the position that you're applying for is open. They want you to be successful. So they're not in there trying to trip you up. They're in their minds just saying, please be the one. And I think once we remember that interviewer is really hoping and praying for you to be successful so they can stop looking for the next candidate, hopefully that helps you alleviate some of that fear. And I think the last piece for me about fear and being uncomfortable is being prepared. So when I think about reaching out to those candidates or those 20 people, right? It's how prepared are you? Are you just like finding their information on LinkedIn and saying, I'll meet with that person, and and then you pick up the phone? Like, I never do that. Like, every time I go in golf, I find out who I'm playing with and I find out a little bit about them if I can, because that's going to give me some things to talk about. If you're in Salesforce will tell you everything you want down to, like, it's may not be the most accurate thing, but it'll tell you where they donate money and what their credit score is and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So be prepared before you meet someone and have a couple questions that you can ask them, open-ended questions that learn about them, because the more prepared you are, the easier it's going to be to have those tough conversations and overcome the fear that will help you get to the level that you want to get to. Did I answer your question before I move on to like the interview prep piece?
There's another question from Dara. What are the other criteria for choosing the 20 people you need to build relationships beyond someone who holds a position you aspire to?
I think it's someone who knows people, who, somebody in that industry that's very connected. So, I think about the film industry. I have a lot of clients in the film industry. It's the toughest industry by any means to get into. So I think that when you reach out to people, let's say you want to be a director. Well, you can try to reach out to other directors. They're probably going to be too busy. So I challenge people to look at other people in the organization, look at other people that are vendors of film industry, anyone like that runs in those circles. Like you have to ask yourself, who might this person know? So I'll tell you, so I do a lot of HR consulting and hiring in the film industry for private clients. And I get calls all the time from people who say, I'd really love to be in the film industry. I see that, you hire in this space. I heard it, would you mind having a talk and helping me with my career? I'm like always happy to do that, right? So I don't know that there's one answer except look through your connections and ask yourself, who might they know? And if they might know, or they might work in those in those worlds, then they're really worth having that. They're really worth reaching out to. And you know what? Make mistakes. If somebody's like, you go and you have this coffee chat with them, and it's 15 minutes or a half an hour out of your life, but you met somebody new and great, but they're not going to help you with your career at all. Well, that's not so bad, right? Then they're not one of your 20. It might take you a couple months to get that 20, but those 20, when you get a job, don't stop reaching out to them every day. Those 20 will change your life, I promise you.
Great, thank you.
All right, so the interview, last, I'm gonna just whiz through this, and I'm sorry you guys, I thought I could make this shorter, but so I always challenge everyone, we'll help you kind of look at culture, but dig in and learn who the company that you're applying for is. That is one of the most important things. And don't assume that you know. Like, for example, a couple of years ago, I had somebody who really wanted to work for Uber, and it was when Uber was going through all those Me Too issues and Boys Club issues. And they thought they knew exactly what Uber was looking for. Well, the truth is, they didn't know what Uber was looking for, because when we went on and we did the research, Uber was more interested in finding somebody who is innovative, and their core values were so much different. They weren't even focused on the Me Too movement. Maybe they should have been, but they thought their CEO would change that. It didn't affect their hiring process. So do the homework. Almost every single company, this is an example of Apple, and we'll use them as an example. This is all from their website. It tells you what kind of person they're looking for, what their culture is. And so when I look at this, I'm going to challenge you, when you do this research, to think two things. It is not your culture. Why are you wasting your time trying to get into the company, right? If this doesn't resonate with who you are, you're not going to get the job. You're going to work really hard to be somebody you're not, and then you're not going to be happy even if you get the job. So take that time to find companies that really align with you, because if you're going to invest the time in finding a job, you need to, it needs to be a good fit too. And I know that's hard to say in this environment, but I'd much rather you spend an hour doing research and writing and connecting with people for the right company than the wrong company, because time is still valuable and you have to protect your time. Oops. And then when you're preparing for this interview, after you've done this, you need to tell them why they're a good fit, right? So that's what the whole interview is about. Your resume, you probably have the experiences that they need if you've gotten to the point of the interview. And the interview is really about understanding, ensuring for them, for the hiring team, that you're a good fit. So I like to connect it to storytelling. So you have all of your information. So we found when we went on the Apple site, right, that here are some of the things that they're looking for. So when you're preparing for your interview, you need to keep these things in mind. So you have to say, okay, with every answer I give, am I going to show that my answers as I'm preparing for the interview, and I'll show you how to do this. We do a lot, we go in depth and work a lot more hand in hand with candidates and our programs, but are my answers proving what they're looking for? And this is what that whole about page, that's what they're trying to prove. For Apple in particular, it's, are you innovative? Are you a team player? Are you not afraid to share new ideas? So when you prepare for the interview, you're preparing to tell a story. So let's just use this first one as an example so you know what I'm talking about. Apple wants someone who's not afraid to share new ideas or opposing opinions. That is written in, I mean, on every single page of their story and their website. So how are you going to prepare to share them with that? So to share that with them and show them that you have this ability. So the first thing your hiring manager is going to do is they're going to have a question that's going to, a behavioral question that's going to help prove this for you, right? So tell me about a time when, and no matter what goes after this, it's going to really be you shared new ideas or opposing opinions. The question could look like, it could be about, tell me about a time you had a disagreement with a boss. Tell me about a time you didn't like the direction the company was going. It could be anything. It's always going to be about the underlying core objective they're trying to identify in you. So are you guys, just talk up this chat so I don't spend too much time on STAR. Are you guys all familiar with the STAR technique? Anyone? Okay,
most people know about this or some version of the acronym.
Okay, fantastic. So it's how you structure your interview basically to make sure that it's neat and organized and you're not going off on tangents. It's also how interviewers hear your interview. So it works from both sides of that equation. So in this particular situation, you want to, like, when you're preparing, you know they're looking for they're looking for a collaborative story. If you come up with 10 of your greatest, and here's where your worst stories come in, right? If you look for your 10 greatest accomplishments, greatest stories, I don't even think you need that many. In all truthfulness, I think you probably need 5 of your greatest accomplishment stories at work, and you fit them into this STAR strategy before you interview. I promise you it will all fall into place. But as you're putting them in there, you want to be concise, you want to be organized, but you want to look for that collaborative, you want to look for that leadership dimension that they're striving for. So in this case, it's collaborative. So I had to hire, this is a true story, I had 3 months to hire 1,200 people. So that's my situation. So as I'm putting this in here, there's so many different pieces, like assessing talent. There's so many different pieces of that story that I could share. I had to hire 1,200 people in 3 months. This is like a major, major task. So I had to clearly identify what I was trying to do. Now, when I read that task section back, when you guys read that task section back, it should tell a story about who I am as a leader. And I think that's what great interview prep does, is it helps you by doing the work and putting it into this format on paper or online in your notes. By doing this work, it helps you hear exactly what leadership dimensions you're sharing. Now, sometimes you can share a story that's amazing. I can tell this story about these 1,200 people that we hired, and I could come out sounding like Hitler, because you have to, like, doing this work will make sure that your story is really delivering on what that employer wants. So the action space, the action box, is really where that collaborative, that's where you're going to actually look for your leadership dimension that the company is looking for. In this case, for Apple, they want someone who's collaborative. So that's where I'm going to challenge my answer. I met with the leaders who would help me accomplish this and led an open conversation about how we could best accomplish our goal and work together, right? That's, oh, good, she's collaborative. If instead I said I took the bull by the horns and I assigned everyone a certain number of interviews that they had to do and a certain number of people that they had to hire, and I told them what, it gives a very different story of who I am. It's anti-collaborative. I believe the best way to overcome any fear and the best way to align who you are with what the company is looking for is to just take the time to do this little exercise. It's so worth it. And you only have to really, you'll probably do it once. You'll probably spend a day working on this STAR strategy with 10 or 15 different leadership dimensions, but then you never have to do it again, because it's just, once you've done it, it'll be so much easier to talk to it and deliver on the interview in a really strong presence, with a really strong presence. And then always talk about your result, right? This is your result, and STAR is your opportunity to brag. This is the opportunity to surprise them with something that they weren't looking for. This is the icing on the cake. All right, so, and then every story, I know the favorite interview question everyone has on a story is, tell me about a time that you failed, right? I'm going to remind you, as you're building these stories, we all fail, and it's what you do with it. But every one of your stories has to have a happy ending. So this is where I made the mistake, but this is what I've learned. And this is how I've been successful going forward because of that mistake. That's what people want to hear. So make sure that you have a happy ending, you have a beginning, middle, and end, your SAR or CAR or PAR or all these things, STAR in my case. And then make sure you're telling how you are the hero. This is, so many people will interview and overuse the word we. The interview is about you. So you're going to celebrate your team for sure, but make sure that they understand how you are the hero in your own story. And then always recap with a happy ending. And know that practice makes perfect. So we spend a lot of time doing these leadership circles with folks who are applying for jobs, and we do a lot of practicing in these leadership circles, because it's really hard, again, to assess and edit yourself. So if sometimes the best thing that you can do is find 3 or 4 people, even just on this call, if you want, that you can practice together with doing these interview type questions and hear how you sound, record it, play it back, because you will learn from listening to yourself how you're heard. And it's always, always, always very surprising. And that's it. I'm sorry I went over, but what do we have left? What questions do we have out there? And
so you didn't go over, don't worry, Colleen, this is wonderful. But yeah, there's still a little bit of time. So folks, if you have a question or two that you still want to ask of Colleen, please put that in chat. We'll both be watching it. Sometimes when we meet in a meeting room, we have to be aware that there's another program coming into the meeting room within an hour. Then we watch the clock. Not as much when we're virtual.
All right. Well, I guess you get to take your screen back then.
Some compliments. Well, I'll leave this up just for another moment or two. It's got your contact information. So that's terrific. Anyone who, of course, who's interested in connecting with or speaking with Colleen, she's put her contact information here. I know I've talked with her a number of times. She's very friendly, as you can tell. So I'm sure she'll be very helpful as well. But, oh, there's one question. There you go. Could you show, this is from Edith, could you show the last slide before the very last? I guess it's that one.
Not this one. No. This one?
You know what, Edith? Quickly unmute. Just let us know which slide, or if this is it, just let us know if it's okay. Now these slides, that's it, good. These slides are now available on our website, so you can download them. So I'm so appreciative that Colleen shared those with us all. So that is on our website, psgofmercercounty.org. On the right side of every page is a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. This is a meeting, and those are the presentation documents. And so go to that page, and at the very top, there's a link. And so we'll have the slide deck. A little later, we'll have the chat. Of course, you can go to YouTube and watch this video again. There'll be a link in that section there as well. There is one more question from Dara. How do we choose the 5 persons?
Yeah, that's why we do an entire class on this. It's so hard it's really hard. Like, I really like in our class, we kind of dig into each individual person. It's a circle of leadership. We do a circle of leadership chat, which is 10 people, because it's very personal. It's hard to tell kind of in a general scope. But I wonder, I keep going back to, it's people who know the people that you want to know. So I know that's a really hard question, but it's people who either have the job that you want to have because you know that they know people, right? But they also, that from them, by having a relationship with them, they are, you're going to learn what the attributes of success are through them. But sometimes it's a little trial and error. You take your best shot, right? You say, okay, who are people on LinkedIn that I know that have similar jobs? So I know it's really hard to, without going into specific details, but I would start by asking yourself, who knows who I want to know? Who knows the hiring managers? Who knows the decision makers of the position that I want to take? And then I would, and then once you've kind of exhausted that, I might do a search in LinkedIn and just put my career up there and see who comes up. Like, you can search by job title. So search by job title, see who comes up. Search by companies that you want to work for. I mean, it can be as random as that.
Terrific. Okay.
I see a cover letter.
More about cover letters. And well, I think you addressed it also earlier that some industries just don't pay attention to cover letters and some do. And then I think this is more for me. Will I have a presentation about it? We actually have had a presentation about cover letters. It is in our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and look at it, I will try to find the exact meeting date, and I'll put it in chat a little later. But we've actually had a presentation about cover letters. Okay. Yep. So, it's really a luxury we have, a group like ours that meets weekly compared to the groups that meet monthly, is that we can offer so many more topics and a wider variety of topics. So yes, we have had a program about cover letters. I'm sure we will again, but I'll direct you a little later to the video, or you could just check our YouTube channel. So this was terrific. I really enjoyed this presentation. First of all, thank you, Colleen, so much for being a part now of our PSG of Mercer County family and being a part of this weekly presentations. So thank you so much. I really like some of the points that you made. First of all, I really appreciated this. Came across really as a story. So you really were connecting subject to subject very nicely and created a very both detail and overview of some of these topics. But I appreciated that you identified that really hiring is a selfish process. What can you do to solve the hiring company's problems? A lot of times we like to talk about ourselves, but that's only good when it's in the context of what the problem is. So your resume, as you said, should be talking to the hiring manager about what they're looking for. And it was a good tip to have someone else look over your resume. We have a hard time being objective, and so maybe someone who knows you a little bit, understands the job description, will be able to see if you are meeting the requirements. And I also liked how you talked about that the war stories really, you're living in the past when you're telling war stories, or they focus on the past. And we really should be telling forward-looking stories. This is what I can do for you. Here are the things that I bring as my value proposition. And not only in the interview and not only on the resume, I think it's also very relevant for our elevator pitch when we meet someone and introduce ourselves, or if we have the opportunity to do so in front of a networking group. Don't just let us know that you've got 20 years of experience and what all your accomplishments have been. Talk about what you're looking forward to do. I think that's much more powerful. So I'm glad that you really highlighted that. So thank you so much. Just as we wrap up what we have coming over the next couple weeks, next Friday is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. We are actually going to take a week off. So PSG of Mercer County will not be meeting next Friday. So do have a happy Thanksgiving and do some of your online shopping. Stay safe, of course, and that's next week. But the following week, December 4th, Jeff Benaldi is going to be here. He's an entrepreneur and he's an explorer. And so he and I had a very nice discussion, just learning about some of the vacations and trips that he takes. Really fun and interesting guy. How to create a business that aligns with your passion. So that really becomes important. Just don't do a job similar to what Colleen mentioned before. You may not be happy there if you fit yourself in. You really want to understand what your passion is. So that will be on December 4th. Also coming up later today, if anybody is interested, I am doing a presentation called Using Technology to Grow Your Business. And so we'll be talking about a wide variety of technology to get yourself promoted. So it can be relevant for job seekers as well. It's 2 o'clock today, and it's at the Moorestown Public Library, not Morristown, Moorestown, M-O-O-R-E-S town. So look at their website, the Moorestown Public Library. Signing up is free. You just press the sign up button on their event page and you're welcome to come attend that as well. Tomorrow morning, the Career Support Group will be meeting, and of course virtually. Ashley Owens is going to be presenting how to not suck at networking. So for those of you who had some networking questions and how to find 5 people or 20 people, this is going to talk a bit more about that as well. That's going to be tomorrow morning, 8:30 in the morning, careersupportgroup.org, careersupportgroup.org to get the information. And they have a meetup group as well. And also every Tuesday evening, New Jersey job seekers will be meeting. So you can check the information in our LinkedIn group. It's always the same connection information, so just look there and you can attend if you'd like Tuesday evening. And our cousin organizations, PSG of Central New Jersey, meets Mondays at 10:30, psgcnj.biz, psgcnj.biz, and of course PSG of Morris County, which is psgmc.org, psgmc.org, every Wednesday morning at 9:30. So that's what's on the calendar in the coming weeks. We here don't mind at all promoting and talking about other groups. There's no competition among groups like this. It's all for the benefit of you folks who are all the job seekers and need as much information that'll be helpful to you as possible. So once again, want to thank Colleen and for participating, and I'm going to be reaching out to you again if you had some fun. I hope you'll be on the job seeker support circuit. I can book you lots of places, so we'll talk about that if that's of interest, but we're so appreciative that you were here this morning with us, and wishing everybody a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Please be with family safely, and you will have to decide what that's right for you this year. It's going to be a slightly different normal Thanksgiving, but hope you have a great holiday. And so we will look to see you back here at PSG in Mercer County in 2 weeks. So, and remember, we are keeping the session open with the recording off in just a minute. So I'll keep this open. We could talk about whatever you want. But in the meantime, I'll just say bye, everybody.